Here's a story. Pope Francis condemns killing of 2 women sheltering at Gaza church. Pope Francis condemned the killing of 2 women sheltering at a church in the Gaza Strip, appealing on Sunday for an end to the war. A sniper from the IDF shot the women without warning and in cold blood Saturday, the Latin Patriarchate of Jerusalem. Did I say that right? An ecclesiastical office of the Latin Catholics in the region said in a statement earlier. The 2 were sheltered. Yeah, if you think I'm bad at pronouncing like Hebrew, wait till you get into this real, upper echelon Catholic shit. The 2 were sheltering at the Holy Family Parish, or the majority of Christian families in Gaza have taken refuge during the war, it said. Identifying the women as Nahida Khalil Anton and her daughter Samar Kamal Anton, Francis said that there were no terrorists at the Catholic parish and that it is hosting families, nuns, and those who are sick or have disabilities. Some are saying this is terrorism and war. Yes, it is war. It is terrorism, Francis said after a prayer with the pilgrims gathered at St. Peter's Square. So we have some video of this speech. Let's go now to the world's richest dink, Pope Francis.
Yeah, he gets all the snacks.
He gets all the snacks, that's right.
Continuo a ricevere da casa notizie molto gravi e dolorose. Civili inermi sono oggetto di bombardamenti e spari. E questo è avvenuto persino all'interno del complesso parrocchiale della Santa Famiglia, dove non ci sono terroristi, ma famiglie, bambini, persone malate con disabilità, suore. Una mamma e sua figlia, la signora Navda Khalil Anton e la figlia Samar Qamar Anton, sono state uccise e altre persone ferite dai tiratori scelti mentre andavano in bagno. È stata danneggiata la casa delle suore di Madre Teresa, colpito il loro generatore. Qualcuno dice è il terrorismo, è la guerra. Sì, è la guerra, è il terrorismo. Per questo la scrittura afferma che Dio fa cessare le guerre, rompe gli archi e spezza le lance. Preghiamo il Signore per la pace.
Let's pray for peace.
Now that's a language, man. I could listen to that. It's so musical and lovely to listen to.
Oh, yeah, of course.
English sounds like the guttural German barbarian language it is.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's not the first time Francis has used the word terrorism in relation to the war in Gaza. At his general audience in St. Peter's Square on November 22nd, Francis said the conflict had gone beyond war. This is terrorism. That made headlines just about a month ago. And the Washington Post reported an undisclosed phone call between Francis and Israeli President Isaac Herzog in late October, in which the Pope says it is forbidden to respond to terror with terror amid growing global horror over the loss of civilian life in Gaza. At least 19,453 people have been killed, so that's the official death count now been updated as for the Washington Post since the war began, according to the Gaza Health Ministry, including thousands of children. I'm going to go back to that quote. So on a phone call between the Pope and President Herzog, the Pope said it is forbidden to respond to terror with terror. This is where having the second Catholic president in American history might come in handy if Joe Biden should heed the words of his spiritual leader there. There it is, straight from Francis's mouth. Said that to the president. Can't respond to terror with terror. So pretty strong words for Israel from Pope Francis. One more moral authority. Whatever you think about the Catholic Church, he is a moral authority to millions and millions of people, obviously, turning against Israel.
Yeah, as popes go, he's certainly one of the better.
He's one of the more based popes.
He's one of the more based popes. Yes, he just allowed, and this is not a civil union or a marriage, but he just allowed the church to bless gay couples.
Yeah.
So he just changed. He is gradually obviously a church, a religion. A religion is predicated on the idea that it holds the eternal truths of God. So naturally, institutions like that are going to change very, very slowly because it's very difficult to say, God, he called me up. He told me it's okay. You can bless the gay. It's all okay. So they're going to change slowly, but he's definitely as much of a reformer pope as we've seen, certainly in my lifetime. John Paul II was very beloved, but he was pretty conservative. He was beloved for his anti-communism at that time.
Then they had the other guy. Who was the guy? He wasn't around long. The German guy. People hated him.
Yes. He was running the Vatican like a gay disco.
Yeah, I forget that guy's name.
They were running around with glow sticks in St. Peter's.
But here's some footage from a State Department briefing. Friend of the show, Ryan Grimm.
Benedict? Is that
Benedict? That's it. Benedict. That was it. Friend of the show, Ryan Grimm, whose new book, The Squad, AOC, and the Hope for a New Political Revolution. We know that's on all of your Christmas lists, everybody. So I know you're counting down the days to when you can open that. Don't cheat. Don't cheat. Don't open that stocking too soon. Wait for Christmas. Wait for Christmas. We know you're dying to read the book. But here's Ryan Grimm asking Matthew Miller for the State Department's take on the Pope's condemnation of Israel.
Ryan, go ahead. Welcome back to the briefing room, twice in 2 weeks.
I know, it's good to be here. I have a Pakistan question, but first on Gaza. The Pope Francis said recently, he said, quote, unarmed civilians are subjected to bombings and shootings. And
good product placement there. Bring that counterpoints sticker on that laptop. Make sure you point that at the camera. Always get a plug in. Always get a plug.
He needs the job.
He needs the job. Yeah.
Subjected to bombings and shootings.
I mean, really, I'll be very curious. I got to take a look at that, how that book is selling, because the libs will never forgive the Squad for expressing the slightest amount of independence ever in their careers, and we're not going to read that shit.
No.
So who's going to buy that?
Yeah, I don't know. Not sure. That's why he needs that counterpoints. It's got to do that product placement.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Quote, unarmed civilians are subjected to bombings and shootings, and this even happened inside the parish complex of the Holy Family, where there are no terrorists but families, children, sick and disabled people, nuns. Someone says it's terrorism, it's war. Yes, it's war, it's terrorism, unquote. So first, is the Pope wrong about this, and is the U.S. concerned about its standing among the international community if the Pope is willing to describe what Israel is doing as terrorism?
So one of the things that we have made clear to Israel from the outset is that we do not want to see churches, mosques, schools, hospitals attacked.
Well, they've done all of that. So apparently you didn't make it that clear. Apparently you failed to make that clear. I know you said you were going to make that clear to them in private. Yeah, right. You said you were going to do that in private. All these disagreements will be voiced in private. That's what he said to Max Blumenthal when he confronted him about this very issue at the very, very start of this latest incarnation of the war. So apparently, I mean, I don't know how clear you've tried to make it, but you have not done a good job of that, obviously.
In the secretary's last trip, he had a very candid conversation with the Israeli government about the importance of protecting those civilian sites and ensuring that they are on deconfliction lists so they are not targeted. I will say with respect to this particular incident that you raised, we raised this directly with the Israeli government and asked tough questions about it, and we will continue to do so. I will say with respect to the larger issue.
I thought you were going to say with respect to the Pope's comments, right? You were asked about the Pope. The Pope said that this is terrorism. Is he gonna address the Pope? I don't know. I sense that he's not going to. I sense he's going to duck that entirely.
I would say you've heard me, but you're not. As we noted, you're not always here. I have spoke to the issue from the podium before that one of the things that we have heard from not just our allies who agree with us on approach to Israel, but from countries with which we have very clear disagreements, including those who are calling for an immediate ceasefire, something that we do not support, that they recognize the importance of United States engagement on this issue. They recognize the importance of United States diplomacy on this issue, and they recognize the important role that only the United States can play in, I will say, working with the government of Israel and other partners in the region, something that there really is, it's a role that cannot be replaced by any other country, and so we will continue to play that role.
Right. Now, I got that clip from Ryan Grimm's own feed, and so I'm sure they didn't just edit out the part of the response where the guy actually answers his question about the Pope. Notice a giant word salad there.
Oh,
no
yeah.
answer.
That
no
was,
answer
that,
at all.
That was like the word salad Olympics. That was amazing because he just keeps talking and talking and not saying a fucking thing.
And look, not to beat up on Ryan Grimm, but Max Blumenthal wouldn't have let him talk over him like that. He'd have interrupted him 3 or 4 times. I asked you a question about the Pope, who condemned these recent actions. What do you have to say about that? Because does the Biden administration want to get on the wrong side of the Pope? I don't think so. I think now they're going to start losing the Catholic vote. Then forget it. Then you're talking about a 49-state landslide. At that point, they lose Long Island.
Well, I mean, they already lost any Catholics who are traditional about abortion.
Right. Well, yeah, but a lot of Catholics vote Democrat anyway. A lot of Catholics look the other way on that.
Well, a lot of Democrats. I don't think I've ever known a Catholic who actually lived by that personally. They're Catholics. I know it's almost like Jews. It's more of a cultural tradition than a religious belief.
Right.
But of course, those would be the Catholics I would know, right?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, basically, this is their party line. We're sending some very sternly worded letters to the Israelis. We're telling them to cut it out. Stop committing a genocide. No. That's bad. Don't lay off the hospitals and the churches and the women and the children. Basically, stop everything that you're doing. And the next day, it's the same shit. Now, they may very well be saying this. I believe that Biden has probably said, hey, you got to cool it because you're losing support internationally and I'm losing support at home. And I'm sure that's probably true. Netanyahu could give a shit what the fuck the United States said. Because unless you're going to say we're cutting off the money tomorrow, unless you do these things, why would he care? And we're not going to do that. So he's laughing. There's that footage. We've never pulled it for the show. It's from a few years ago where they literally have Netanyahu on camera saying, basically what Paulie says about Karen and Goodfellas. Don't worry, I know how to talk to her, especially to her.
Right.
Ask him about the United States. He's like, the United States. We can talk to them. Don't worry about them.
Yeah, no, look, if anything, for Netanyahu, the fact that this is tanking Biden's polling is a plus because Netanyahu probably wants Donald Trump back. You know, we did a piece of a few weeks ago about how Israel actually did collude with the Trump campaign in 2016.
Right.
Like they want to Trump. Like Netanyahu and Trump get along great. Right. So there's an added bonus. That's like a cherry on top. Hey, this will tank Biden and Trump will be back, next year. That's number one. Number two, they feel like, I'm talking about Biden, they feel like they could just filibuster and run out the clock here because unlike Ukraine, which could theoretically go on forever since you're talking about, two established powers with militaries. Not that Ukraine could defend itself without us, but as we've said, in the past year, the front lines have barely moved in the Ukraine war. So you could fight that to a stalemate and keep going and keep going and keep going. At a certain point, the political support will dry up before the war ends, right? That's why they're telling Zelensky, hey, it's kind of time to wind down. In this case, this war can't go on forever anyway. They can run out the clock here with just, we're telling them to be careful because eventually there's just not going to be a Gaza left. And by eventually, I don't mean a very, very long ways away. Right? I mean, it's a horrible thing to say. It's a horrible thing to think. But this war is not going to go on for another year. In 6 more months at this rate, there will be no Gaza. It can't.
Right.
So all Biden has to do is...
In the end, that's what they want.
Exactly. That's what they want. So all Biden has to do is basically stall. Yeah, we keep telling them, what, 20,000 dead? Okay, a few months, what would be 150,000 dead? Right? It's going to keep happening at an exponential rate because the civilians are crowded closer and closer. I mean, it's absolutely horrible. It's absolutely unthinkable.
Israel's entire history has been better to ask forgiveness than permission. They've just constantly encroached on Palestinian land, on Palestinian rights, expanded their settlements, pushed them further and further off their land. And it's been a long-term goal. If you go back and you look at some of the statements going all the way back to 1948, things that Ben Gurion was saying, Ben Gurion said, no, you know what, we shouldn't make a deal with the UN. Let's just wait them out. If we make a deal, they're going to extract a price. If we just wait, it's going to be better for us. That's what they've been doing for 75 years. They've just been trying to take over the entire territory, one step, one incursion, one settlement at a time, gradually, slowly, to absorb that entire area. That's their end game.
Please clap.